Welcome. I believe it's September. This is the September Society workshop. This workshop sort of completes, we didn't really realize we were doing this, but it completes almost a little mini series about how to build an ideal, and I'm saying this with pride, an ideal lifestyle practice. Because you're building a lifestyle practice, whether you want to talk about it or not. It's just a question of whether you want the lifestyle you're building to be intentional or not. We talked about the systems that we use to identify unique ability, the stop doing list, how to delete, automate, and delegate everything else away, right? So that brings us here where we've got this list of things that maybe we've decided, man, we can't get rid of them. We can't automate them, and we're not sure that we're the ones to do them. So do we hire or do we not? And I thought I couldn't think of anybody better to bring on than good old Michael Kitces. Is Michael Ernest Kitces here? Oh, there you are, Michael.
I am
Hi.
here, sir. I am here.
So I don't know that I need to give a bunch of background about Michael. 12,000 plus members at kitces.com and has hired over 20 team members. The reason all of that's important is Michael's had a bunch of reps at this conversation about when and how to hire, how to think about it from a very personal perspective, and then also all the reps with advisors who have been asking this question for a really long time. So that's what we're going to dive into today. Let me just back up and remind you, the value of the Society of Advice is these live meetings, in my opinion. What happens here can't really be replicated by watching the video. The video is great, right? But the live, and the reason the live thing matters is because we work really hard to create a space where insights will occur to you. And the insight that will occur to Shauna is different than the insight that will occur to the person sitting next to Shauna on Zoom, right? And so the more you can sort of be here now, and I wouldn't pretend to know what you should do next, but I have total confidence that you will know, right? That you've got the answer. And our goal today is just to bounce a bunch of ideas around so that those insights can occur. So, Michael, before we get to the tactical part, let's talk a little bit about mindset. And I'd love to hear both like your own experience and the advisors that you've consulted with. You're a serial entrepreneur, you've started a bunch of businesses. What's the biggest mindset hurdle you've personally had to deal with around hiring?
So when I started going down this path, when you're running as a solo and you start hitting capacity, the standard exercise is usually pretty straightforward. It's something to the effect of make a list of all the things that you do, circle the ones that you don't want to do. That is now the job description of the first person that you should hire, right? Like just make a list of all those things, whatever it is you don't want to do, you wish you could let go of. It's just energy draining and soul sucking. Whatever those things are, like make the list of all the things that you hate to do and make that someone else's job description now. And then you can like lift yourself up to your highest and best purpose and go on and be your awesome self and do your awesome thing.
Anybody want to jump in with a question, a mindset question about this particular topic?
I think the comment that just came out, Carl, about it being expensive to hire somebody. I did this, my first hire, a year and a half ago, and within 1 month, I tripled my revenue. So I'm going to debunk that it's too expensive thing.
I will say though, following on that theme, Katie, there is, right, if we get into kind of the mindset fears, I think hold a lot of us back. There is a certain pressure, fear of, so if I hire someone to free up my time, I'm just gonna like go out there and rain's gonna start falling from the sky in my lap, right? And I don't know that all of us necessarily have that level of business development growth confidence at the end of the day, right? The implication is if you free up time, you'll go grow more. There's some pretty good data all over the place that shows that to be true. But, payroll is known today, growth is an uncertain future. And just depending on where we are in our confidence in our growth, our business development, our pipeline, our ability to get a pipeline, shake trees, run marketing, whatever the thing it is that we do that hopefully makes more revenue come in the door at some point in the future. I do find for a lot of us, there is a spot somewhere deep down that's saying I'm not really actually sure if I free up my time that more business is going to come in.
Mm-hmm. But I think that framing is really helpful of like, when do you hire? In my mind, the easy answer to that question is when I'm pretty sure it will be an investment, not an expense. And I've thought through how that will be an investment and not an expense. And I can maybe even see the path to that. So what do we think about in terms of hiring first? But before we move completely on, Pam, I just want to hit this one last time. You've made a couple comments in here about this feeling guilty thing. I think you're right that it's really, really important. So let's just hit it one more time. Try to sum up the couple comments and what's going on in your head.
Oh, so it was a couple of comments because I hit enter by accident.
It's
But
fine.
someone,
You're allowed. There's no limit.
no, I was tagging on. Someone else had said the word guilty is always such an interesting. You always want to pick at that, right? Like, because what does that mean? And someone had said they feel guilty about delegating tasks that feel like they're beneath them. And I'm literally like, I have a woman now who orders a smoothie that gets delivered to my desk, right? Because like, it's not important enough for me to order my own smoothie, right? And so this work is so valuable and so important to like my life, my business, and our society, and the market values it at a low dollar figure, right? So the person who's scanning my documents is getting paid less than I'm making, right? And so I think, that's just like the reality of our economic system in our world, and we can hold both of those things. But for me, it's really important to like bring it up, because if I don't, then that guilt stops you from getting the help you need.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's important because it also, like, this is the same feeling that plays into the fees we charge. Right. And I know from talking to a lot of you, you've struggled with this same idea of like, why is my work worth this? Right. And how come? And we don't, it took me a long time to just finally say, look, that's not really my job necessarily to feel certain feelings about how the market has priced certain jobs. And I think the idea of just understanding that there is a piece of guilt around, somebody that orders a smoothie. Right. And I feel this all the time. I feel like I have to have baby. I'm literally like you've got to treat me like an 8-year-old. Like, I know a normal person could make sure that they have a hotel next week in Denver, but I'm not a normal human. Like, there's a chance I'm going to show up in Denver. There's no hotel if I'm in charge of this. Like, it's happened before.
Second that.
Yeah. So there, but we don't need to feel bad necessarily about that, right? It's just different wiring. Okay, Michael, typically, what do you see, especially somebody moving from solo or small firm to just like making their first or second hire? What are you thinking about there?
First is admin, second is associate advisor. If you are one of those people who has a natural gift for systems and process, you know who you are. If you have that gift, you may go directly to associate advisor first, because you will system and process your way through needing an admin to delegate to. You tend to automate an efficiency away so many admin tasks that the runway gets a little bit longer for you. For the other 80 or 90% of us, admin first, associate second. Primarily because there's plenty of admin stuff to task. It's just not a good business. Not a good use of business resources to hire a young CFP and give them a bunch of admin tasks. It's not a good use of the business dollars to do it. And they're not going to be terribly energized about their career opportunities when they feel like they're doing administrative work and they really wanted to be doing client stuff.
Let me just ask you about alternative take, because that's my job. And you said in some of the notes that we passed back and forth before this about and I'm not sure COO is the right phrase for what I'm about to say. Like, what if I don't want to worry about any of that? And I would love to invest early on in somebody who, like, I'm just playing the guitar over here, you run the business, like that level of help. Right? Like I don't know about any of this. I don't want to do the hiring. I don't want to write job descriptions. I don't want to figure out what I out. I'm just literally, I'm going to do what I'm really great at, and anything I don't like, I'm going to ask you, and you're going to take care of it. I refer to that person as a COO. What do you think about starting there? Because I know in some of the notes we passed back and forth, you're like, no way, that's crazy.
Most of those people at the end of the day, I would call partner, not team, is the first thing that I would say. And the reason is the level of person you need if you're actually going to be doing that as the business grows. So I'll give some examples for context. So Kitces.com is a 24-person business now. My right-hand COO managing director doesn't do anything. She has no tasks. She runs the business. She runs the management team. She makes sure HR is on track and operations is on track and finance is on track. And she's doing one-on-ones with the management team, and she's running the management team meetings, and she's making sure that everyone in the business is hitting their metrics and holding them accountable while making sure they're getting through their quarterly initiatives and all their projects are on track to their annual goals. If I had one employee, she'd be bored and quit in 3 months. Her skill set is managing a big old team of people. If that's my first hire, I don't have a big old team of people yet.
I was just talking about the first hire could be, I'm just making sure that we all understand that if I want to be the artist and there's somebody else who's really good at building product, structure, business, that person could be called, in some businesses, that person could be called an executive assistant. In other businesses, that person could be called a COO because they do way more. They could literally be like a partner. So those are all okay. And you don't have to be worried about, well, what am I going to do when I have 10 people? Let's jump into a couple of questions before we move on. Scott.
Hi, guys. Thank you
Oh,
for
there
the
you go.
conversation. Tiny but frightening requests. I love that frame because I think, and you can only share from your own experience, right? But I think, well, two things. One, I think that everyone who's looking at do I hire, do I not hire, I think you just always need to look at the frame of not who do I want to be in 15 years, but who do I want to be in 2 or 3? And then just ask yourself the question, okay, if that's what I want to be in 2 or 3 years, what are the steps that I'm going to take to get me there? I think that'll help you solve who you want to hire for next. It certainly helped me when I was starting to build out my team. And then the next thing that was a huge shift that helped me a ton, and I think it's because of our profession. We have this profession where we put on this veneer of knowing everything. We're the technical person who knows everything, and we can't not know what we're doing. So this fear of hiring someone who's going to come in and learn that I have no processes written down, and I do everything in my head, and I barely use my CRM. That's just terrifying. So then I think like, oh man, I'm not an organized person, but I need to take all this time and energy to go create all these processes and systems so I can hire this admin to do this work. If you're not the person who creates the systems, that's the absolute wrong answer. The right answer is check your ego, have someone come in and go, hey, I built this cool thing, but I literally do everything in my head. And I need you to help me put it all on paper, put it into a system, build it out. And you do that, and it's just so freeing because all of a sudden you go like, well, I don't have to be who I'm not. Like if you think of it through that lens, you stop micromanaging people and you free up a lot of time for yourself. So I just wanted to give you guys that lens because that was so freeing for me when I finally adopted that.
Yeah, I want to extend that further. The whole point is you have no system and process.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not knocking anyone. Just like most of us, we don't become advisors and hang our own shingles because that is our gift. We have other gifts.
But the key, Michael, is accepting that it's okay that you don't have a system and a process. Yeah. And it's okay that you're going to show up and show someone that like, yeah, we do make sausage back here and it's really messy. And like embracing that really helped.
Yeah, I love that. Greetings, Carl Richards here. What you just watched was just a little snippet of the September Society of Advice workshop. And my guest in September was Michael Kitces. And I think you all know who Michael Kitces is. He's the co-host of the world famous Kitces and Carl podcast. He's got his own podcast, Advisor Success. Kitces, the Kitces.com platform has been massively impactful. I don't know anybody who's been more impactful, to be honest, in the financial planning, financial advice space. So it was so fun to have Michael on. Michael's a good friend of mine, which allowed us to have a lot of really strong opinions and banter that I think was really helpful. The goal of this workshop, it was for, one way to frame it is owners of solo practitioners or owners of small practices. Right? I love to proudly call them lifestyle firms. We've been doing the last couple of months a series on how to think about the jobs to be done, right? So like, do we delegate? Can we delete? How do we get rid of stuff that doesn't give us energy? How do we get clear about that stuff? We've been doing a series, and this was the final workshop in the series about how to actually hire, how to think about hiring. Who's the first person you hire? When do I hire? How do I get clear about whether I should, or maybe really importantly, whether I shouldn't hire? And oh my gosh, it was such a lively discussion. So many resources shared in the chat and in the conversation. One member of the Society of Advice, my friend Scott, shared his actual job description. He shared a link to a Google Doc, which he opened up for people so you could go in and copy it. It was incredible in terms of the resources. My favorite moment really though, like it always is when we got to have a conversation about getting clear about why you're doing this in the first place. If you join the Society of Advice, you can watch the whole 90 minutes. Now listen, I wish it was easy for me to tell you about all the benefit of the Society of Advice so you just join. But we have really struggled with that. So what we've decided to do, it's a bit like your work as a financial planner. People don't really understand the value of it till they go through it. So what we've decided to do is when you join, your first month is free. That is not a sales trick. That is purely like, come and see. If it's a good fit, guess what? You'll stay. If it's not a good fit, you'll leave. You'll cancel. We make it easy. It's not a problem. And high fives next time we see each other. There's no feelings about it. If it's a good fit, you'll stay. And I want you to stay. If it's not a good fit, I would suggest you leave. So come and see for yourself. All you do is go to the Society of Advice, thesocietyofadvice.com, sign up, and your first month will be free. Then you can see this entire workshop with my friend Michael Kitces, and I think you will find it massively valuable. Cheers, my friends.